your bike-friendly steak.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business professionals, business practices, and fascinating individuals to get an insider view of how America works. 10 to 11 a.m. on America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Good morning and welcome.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the On Point with Victor show. I am Victor Armendariz, and that is Armendariz, as in zebra. Thanks so much for listening. You're tuned into America's Web Radio. I just want to take a second and thank everyone again. It's just amazing what's been happening here at America's Web Radio. The listenership's been going up every week. Every month we're showing good numbers. America's Web Radio as a whole is just the listenership is continuing to climb. And that's awesome for two reasons. A, I can still sit here and talk to you. B, as America's Web Radio grows, that just means the power of the message that if any of you guys who have a business, if you know a veteran with a business, anything out there, even if you think you've got a show that just no one else will produce for you, hey, send us an email, gm@americaswebradio.com, gm@americaswebradio.com. That is the email. So you can contact us, to be a sponsor of any of the shows on America's Web Radio, because it doesn't just start and end with me, as much as I try and convince the powers to be here that it does. America's Web Radio is amazing. We've got shows of all types. This is the largest, if not the largest, one of the largest live producing podcast radio stations on the planet. So you're going to get a national audience here, whether you're an advertiser or you come up with a good idea for a show. Look, folks, we like to be in touch with the listeners out there, and there's quite a few listeners to my show here at On Point with Victor that might disagree with me, and if you do, hey, contact us. I'll put you on myself, come on my show, and then if you're good enough, maybe you can have your own show. So keep that in mind, folks. Spread the word. I know a lot of you are spreading the word, so continue to do so. I can't thank you enough. So, there's a reason why I refer to America's Web Radio as the next evolutionary step in talk radio, because it is. As streaming becomes more available and better, we've got faster speeds coming into just about every neighborhood in the country. Including vehicles, as streaming becomes and web services are available in cars while you're jettisoning down the highway. Streaming, this is the way radio is going. Your run-of-the-mill FM AM stations, that's a thing of the past. It's new. The ever quest for new information or more information or more outlets. That's where things are headed, and America's Web Radio is proud to lead that charge. So thanks again, and continue to keep spreading the word. So we are chock full of things today. As always, I don't even know where to begin. I have a stack of stuff here that I'm gonna get to. But once again, the issues of the day and just the way things are constantly happening, there's so many things that are pulling me away from my stack of stuff today that I just have to touch on. So stay tuned, folks. This is gonna be good today, because we're gonna talk about soccer. We're gonna talk about the Women's World Cup. We're gonna talk about the Gold Cup. We have the United States national women's team who are well on their way to hopefully making an appearance in the World Cup final. We have a renewed and revigorated United States men's team that is making their way through the Gold Cup. So maybe they can come away with a victory. Maybe they can hoist the Gold Cup this year. Boy, wouldn't that be fantastic? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to get into the common sense and logic approach that you will only get from On Point with Victor. I'm going to give that response or analysis to the situation in Iran. So we're going to get on that topic. I mean, folks, how many radio shows can you tune into where you're going to hear soccer because of our national United States national teams, and how many times you're going to hear that, and then how many times, and Iran in the same topic? So I've got some people here looking at me going, what? I understand, because my IT guy's looking at me, he wants to talk about hockey. And, we probably should have mentioned a little bit of hockey because, the Stanley Cup was just won, a couple of weeks ago there? Yeah. So don't get me wrong, I like that too. So I've got messages coming at me all over the place. One of the other topics we will get to, thanks to the station manager and owner here, is Huckabee Sanders' replacement was named today. So we'll get into a little bit of that if we can, because the person that was named today has been working with First Lady Melania Trump, and she is a rock star. So this is going to be, it's hard to fill Sarah Huckabee Sanders' shoes, but I think they found a rock star to fill those shoes. So we'll get into that. So again, folks, where on earth are you going to tune into a radio show and you're going to get the On Point with Victor common sense and logic analysis of what's going on with Iran? Because that's a huge issue, and it's just amazing to me of what the Democrats and the establishment Republicans are doing with that. And you also get a little bit of analysis about our national team. Now, folks, the reason why I know some of you are out there, just like our IT guy here, he looked at me crazy when I mentioned soccer. But ladies and gentlemen, even if you don't like the game of soccer, what other sport is there a group of people, a group of women and a group of men who are brought together to field a team to represent the flag? If you're watching, this flag behind me, this flag on my shirt, they're representing the United States of America. And you've got to get behind that, folks, because this actually is a world sport. This isn't some, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to make fun of American football, but this isn't a Super Bowl where it's only teams of the United States playing each other. No. This is a World Cup. This is a group of men and a group of women who are representing the United States going into battle against the likes of France, the likes of Netherlands, Spain, England, Norway. It really, really is amazing. And if you're not a fan, try checking it out, because I bet you will be once this is done, because it's getting exciting now, because now we're in the knockout phase. So, all right, so we're going to talk about that. So bear with me, those of you who are like our IT manager here and just likes hockey. Bear with me. And of course, I'm not going to bring up the subject without tying it in politically. You guys know that On Point with Victor, my show, I can pretty much, if I'm going to talk about it, I could probably draw the line into politics. And unfortunately, when you're talking about representing the United States on the soccer field or the soccer pitch, politics should be the last thing to have to do with those games. And unfortunately, some of the players who just can't get out of their own way have to bring politics in, and of course the media will make hay of it, and they bring politics into it, and it's unfortunate. But we had news today that, and folks, this has been going on since the Women's World Cup started. They have a player on there, oh my goodness, I'm going to forget her name, Megan Rapone, or I think it's Rapone. Look, she's a good player. She's got skills. She might be a step off today, but hey, she's been playing for a while. She's getting up there. She's getting older. But she's a fantastic player from the past. She has been there for the United States in previous World Cups. She has been there for all kinds of tournaments representing the women's United States team. What bothers me and what's bothering what caught the attention of President Trump this morning or yesterday was the fact that since this World Cup has started, now they are in foreign land. They're in Paris, France, representing the United States flag. They're representing the United States, our country, our great nation. And this player, Megan Rapone, I'm probably saying that. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's not coming to me. But we'll just call her Megan. She is standing there. First of all, guys, for those of you who don't follow, a few years ago, or a year or two ago, she tried to start kneeling. She tried to take the Kaepernick role. And to the they deserve much credit. The United States Soccer Federation, the people who run, and the coach, I believe, put a stop to it immediately. They reprimanded Megan and said, no, there will be no kneeling in front of the national anthem or the flag, not while you're on this United States soccer team representing the United States. So luckily they did do that. But boy, she's at it again, though, so she can't kneel, so she's not doing that. But she puts out a statement not too long ago saying that she would never, ever, ever sing the national anthem again, or at least not while Donald Trump was president. And then she stands during every game. They play the national anthem of each team. The teams playing each other. So she stands there, puts her hands behind her back. She won't sing the song. All her teammates are singing the national anthem, and she just stands there and has this smirk on her face. Now, look, folks. I believe in freedom, and I believe in liberty, and I believe that we have secured freedom and liberty in this country, and we have an amazing Constitution that gives Megan the right to stand there and look like a dunce if she wants to. That's not my beef. My beef is that she's on this team representing the United States, and she has such hatred for the United States, or such hatred for President Trump, that she's going to stand there and basically badmouth our country, badmouth the office of the presidency, and on foreign territory. And then she's going to stand there in front of foreign opponents and just have total disrespect for the flag, total disrespect for her country, total disrespect for her fans. Trust me, there are a lot of soccer fans out there that aren't libtards. There are a lot of soccer fans that are middle of the road. They might be independents, they might be libertarians, and there are some Republicans. So she is insulting probably half, if not more than half, of the fan base. So she really ought to think about this. But what really chaps me, and again, don't misunderstand me, she has the right, because of this great country and because of the great veterans of this country, she has the right to stand there and do whatever she wants, except for kneel, and thank goodness, because she has to follow the rules of the team. And the team rule is there's no kneeling to the flag, no kneeling in the national anthem. But she can stand there with her hands behind her back. She can stand there with that smirk on her face. That's fine. She can tweet out how much she disapproves of this great nation. But my message to Megan is, if you're going to stand up on the foreign soil and you're going to bash your own country, the country that led the way in women's soccer, the country that paved the way for women's soccer, if you're going to do that, then where are your tweets? Your tweets. Where are your tweets for the Chinese women's team, who those players were forced to play on that team? Where are your tweets of the camps and the internment camps that still exist in China? Where are your tweets for the women who still can't be educated in Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Middle East? Where are your tweets for women who can't walk the streets alone without a male escort in certain countries in the Middle East? Where are your tweets for the gay people in the Middle East who get thrown off buildings because it's illegal to be a homosexual? Where are those tweets? If you want to be so high and mighty, Megan, and you want to tell the rest of us that we should be ashamed of our country, we should be ashamed of red, white, and blue, then where is your disdain? Where is your disgust? Where is your call for a better life for the actual people out there committing the atrocities that you pretend is going on here in the United States? That's my message, and that's how I tie this together, bringing the soccer into politics. Well, actually, look, I didn't bring politics into soccer. Megan did, and some of these other politicians and some of this media bring it in. And again, folks, I wish we could just sit back and enjoy the game. It's a beautiful game. We've got an amazing team, and we need to support them. So if somebody knows Megan, please get her a message. We love her. We love her talent. and we love the team. We just want you to at the very least, acknowledge that your country paved the way for women's soccer. The United States paved the way for women's soccer. Not China, not France, not Germany, not the Middle East. So just learn a little bit of history, Megan, and I think we'll be all right. But all that aside, we're going to support the women's team as they continue on their way to the final. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our first break. You hang on right there, and we're gonna move on to some topics of the day when we come back. You stay tuned. You're listening to On Point with Victor. This is America's Web Radio.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction, or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AHC is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business professionals, business practices, and fascinating individuals to get an insider view of how America works. 10 to 11 a.m. on America's Web Radio.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. You are tuned into On Point with Victor. So I had awesome listeners, as awesome as my listeners are, that chimed in and told me it's Rapinoe. So I think I had that close. So it's the player's name is Rapinoe. And so if you're just tuning in and you missed, I opened up with our support for the women's soccer and support for hopefully winning the World Cup final. But there was some news this morning with Perino trying, just she doesn't want to stand for the national anthem, but she has to. So she stands there with a smirk on her face and all that. So I'm not going to get into it again. You guys, if you missed it, then make sure you go back and watch the whole show from the beginning on Point with Victor. You can find it on YouTube, and you can find us right now live on Facebook. So, all right, we're going to move on. So, and also, let me just give a quick shout-out to the men's team as well, because the men's team, they're in the Gold Cup, and they won their last game, which is going to thrust them into the final rounds, so the knockout rounds of the Gold Cup. So let's also support them, which is why those of you watching today, you see my USA shirt on, because we've got, like I said, we've got the women's team that are heading straight, hopefully, to the final, and we've got the men's who maybe they'll surprise us. Who knows? Who knows? If my father has his way, Mexico will win the Gold Cup, and that's his pick right now, because he says there's the most talented team right now, and let's face it, they probably are. All right, let's move on. So I want to take a second. Again, I got to thank everyone. I received a lot of comments on my education class last week that I gave Alexandria Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known around here as Occasional Cortex. Thank you guys so much. The station received a lot of comments and just a lot of kudos of the history lesson that I gave Cortez last week. And folks, it was pointed out to me that we were first to issue a history lesson to Alexandria Cortez. Apparently, a lot of the elected Republicans have joined suit, and I'm glad, and I welcome them. And hopefully some in the media have been trying to educate her as well. Don't hold your breath. She's not going to learn anything. In fact, she's doubled down. She's, it's unbelievable if you listen to her. She's now trying to twist this and turn this again on Trump and the Republicans, as if she didn't say what she said. So if you missed my education last week, if you missed my lesson, my history lesson on concentration camps that I gave Alexandria Cortez last week, look, folks, just go to YouTube, look up On Point with Victor, look up the America's Web page. You should be able to find all my shows there. You can also go to americaswebradio.com and you might be able to find them there. But really the best way is just go to go to YouTube and search On Point with Victor, and you should be able to find all my shows there. So if you missed it last week, check it out. I had a good lesson for Cortez that we went through last week. So watch that, ladies and gentlemen, and please forward it on to other people who might need to see it or might need a history lesson on concentration camps. So, all right, folks, we're gonna move forward. I had some people reach out to me and said, Victor, don't be too hard on Alexandria Cortez. And I said, why not? And I had a few people that said, she's a victim of government schools. And there's some truth to that, probably. It is no secret that today's government schools, they don't even teach civics. If they do, they brush by it. And they darn sure aren't teaching the proper history of this country. They try and breeze by that so they can get to the indoctrination lessons of climate change, global warming, global freezing, global this, global that, and trying to change the history of socialism. They have revisionist lessons that they're giving on socialism. So there's a lot that the government schools have to do, and they can only do so much. And apparently the real history of this country, that's just not that important to today's government schools. So the listeners may have a point that, Alexandria Cortez, I might need to back off just a little bit, just because she is a victim of government schooling. To my knowledge, she's a victim. I know she's a victim of the college system because she supposedly holds a minor, I believe, in economics. So, amazing to me. But she shows her ignorance. And look, folks, ignorance can be fixed. Ignorance, usually, if you're ignorant of the facts, or if you're ignorant of the law, if you're ignorant of information, you can be taught. What you can't do is fix stupid. And so let's hope that that's not the case. Let's hope that she just is misinformed and that she can learn. We hope for the best here at On Point with Victor. So let's hope that's the case. So, thanks again for those listeners to point that out. So, okay, I'm going to move on. I have a little story I want to tell. Look, folks, the last few days I have spent in Dallas. I had to go off to Dallas, Texas. It's kind of my second home these days, along with Las Vegas and New York. Just because some of the work that I do outside of the radio station takes me to different cities, and I was in Dallas these last few days. And one thing I love to do is when I travel, I love to talk to whoever I can, and just to see how they're living, how they're feeling, how their community is. And inevitably, it usually ends up with a conversation on politics. And believe it or not, folks, I'm not the one that brings up politics first. It's usually the person I'm talking to. And I had a great, wonderful story that I've just got to share. So I'm staying at a nice little hotel not far from the convention center where I had to be. And so I get up in the morning, get my stuff, I go out and hop on the shuttle bus. And the shuttle bus takes me to the convention center. And on this particular day, the shuttle bus driver was a he had, was a young, well, I say young man. He was probably in his early 50s, and he was a black man. And so I sit up in front and we start chatting. He turns and he asks me, he goes, "Hey, what are you in Dallas for?" And I tell him, "Yeah, I'm here for the convention, the wholesale show." And he says, oh, do you have a retail store? And I said, "No, what I do is I consult and I bring retailers together with buyers and make sure they're getting the proper product mix in their stores and so on." And then he asks and he says, "Well, how's business?" And I said, "Things have been pretty good." And he goes, "Well, what about the last few years?" And I said, "Well, there's no doubt that in the past 2.5 or so years, we've seen a change. The industry's seen a change. The consumerism, the feeling is high. People are spending money. Stores are coming out spending money. Stores are starting to buy inventory." And I said, it's nice to see. And he looks at me and he goes, and he asked me what my name was, and I told him, it's Victor. And he said, "Well, Mr. Victor," he goes, "I got it." And this is what he says. He looks to me and he goes, "Mr. Victor," he goes, I'm a black man." And I went, "Well, I can see that." And he said, "I got to tell you that Mr. President Obama did nothing for me." He goes, 8 years I was told because he was black and because I'm black that was going to be good for me." And he said, "Mr. Victor, I was broke. I was dead broke during the Obama years." And he goes, "But now, here's what I know, Victor." He goes, "I don't know if Trump is a racist." He goes, I haven't seen any proof that he's a racist, but that's what they keep telling me, Victor. Mr. Victor, they keep telling me that he is. And they keep telling me that he's this bad guy, and they keep telling me that he says these bad things." He goes, "But Mr. Victor, I don't really see that. I don't see that." And I ask people to show me proof. Because, Mr. Victor, let me tell you what I do know. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a bus driver. This is a driver of a shuttle bus who just decided to have this conversation with me and who sat there and said, "Mr. Victor, I don't see any of that. No one is showing me proof. But what I do see is I'm making more money now than I've ever made before." He goes, "Mr. Victor, I have money in my pocket. I have a job. And this is one of the best jobs I've had in a long, long time." And he said that not only is he making more money and he has a job, that there are other jobs out there. And he said his family members have jobs, and friends are getting jobs. And he said that what's going on in Dallas, he said, everywhere you look, there's a job. I mean, just listen to that and take that to heart, folks, because if you listen to me on a regular basis, you know that I'm constantly telling you, take the emotions out of politics. Divorce from the letter D, divorce from the letter R, and don't let your emotions make your decisions on politics. Just look at policy. Look at the actions of a politician. Look around and see what really is helping you. If you are better off today than you were under the previous administration, then these policies are working for you. And I venture to say, on the whole, and the numbers don't lie, that the country is doing better in the last 2.5 years than it did in 8 years. Folks, I can sum it up for you. We had 8 years of not once of 1 year going over 1% GDP growth. And I'm talking about the average. I am not talking quarterly. In 8 years of the previous administration, not 1 year went over 1.5%, even 1%, but definitely not 1.5% GDP on the average. Folks, that is a shrinking economy. When you're growing at 1%, 1.5%, it's okay. To get technical, it's a stalling economy. It's economy that's not growing. You're at 1%. You are not growing the economic pie enough to cover the new workers coming into the workforce from the new college graduates. It cannot support that pie. Can't support the people. And that is why in 8 years you saw the highest number of Americans that were out of the workforce. So that was the lowest labor participation number that we've had in the history of this country was the previous 8 years. We had a record number of people being put on food stamps. We had record number of people being put on disability. So that was the 8 years previous. And this guy, this blue collar bus driver was astute enough to say, what I do know is what's happening on the ground is I've got money in my pocket and I've got a job. I didn't have that in the previous president or the previous administration. So folks, just listen to that and take that in for a moment. We're going to go to our next break. Hang tight. We'll be right back. This is a quick one. You're listening to On Point with Victor. This is America's Web Radio.
Hi, this is Steve Ronaldo, host of the Classic Car Show on America's Web Radio. Just talking to you about antique car insurance. I think that if you're looking for the best coverage for your classic car, consider J.C. Taylor Insurance. They've been my insurer for years in this hobby and have the top rating of all of the insurance companies in the hobby. When you get ready for insurance, call J.C. Taylor or visit jctaylor.com on the internet.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor. Folks, if you want to find me and follow me, find me on Instagram, Radio Victor. You can also find me on Facebook, Victor Armendariz. Look for me there. I've got a couple of pages there, my personal page and also a Victor for Georgia page. And you can find me at americaswebradio.com. So, but definitely, and on Twitter, Radio Victor. But definitely find me on Instagram and all those places and follow me and spread the word. I would appreciate it. So I want to just clarify one thing. Look, folks, when I talk about public schools, the reason why I call them government schools is because that's what they are. If it's a public school, it's being funded and directed by the government. Now, don't confuse that with if you were a military brat, you were raised in a military family and you had to travel around and you were educated in military schools, that is different. Now, yes, it's government, but it's a little bit different when the military has a little thing to say about your education as opposed to politicians and bureaucrats. So that I just want to make that distinction because I have a good listener out there who made that point. They were raised in the DOT education system. And again, that's quite different than being out there in your regular run-of-the-mill public/government school, which gets its direction from a bunch of bureaucrats and elected politicians who have no business setting up education from the federal government. So that's a whole nother issue for a whole nother day, as the travesty of the Department of Education. And in a free country like we are in this great nation, the United States, the last thing we should ever have is a Department of Education. The federal government should have zero to do with the education of the citizenry of this country. Zero. And if you doubt me, just do a little history search on Nazi Germany. Do a little history search on communism. Do some history search of the history of other nations, and the first thing that they do when a communism, socialism, tyrannical government, monarch, it doesn't matter. No matter any form of government other than freedom and liberty, the first thing they do, take over education, because you have to indoctrinate the populace, and you do that by education. So in no way, shape, or form should this country ever allow the federal government to dictate education and educate your children. But again, that's another topic we can get into another day sometime. And if you're asking, well, Victor, how are we going to pay for education? Look, local level. everything should start on the local level. So your community, should start with your family, your parents, your community, the local community elected officials on the lowest level of that community where those schools are. That's where schooling should be coming from, with the parents working with the teachers and with the needed bureaucracy that's on that local level, but never, ever from the federal centralized government. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say there, because that's a topic for another day. But I thank that listener for bringing that point, because I should always distinguish between the public schools, which I refer to as government education, and make that different that separation from if you are in the military and you're educated by the DoD, because it is different. Okay, so. I just to finish up with a story. So this bus driver was so inspirational, just because he wasn't afraid to think for himself. He wasn't afraid to be an individual. He wasn't afraid to go against his own sister, his own family members who were telling him because of the color of his skin, he has to vote and be married to the letter D. No matter that the letter D is killing his culture, the letter D has been running his cities, or let's just say the culture where maybe, as my father would put it, a lot of his people live. Just look at what's going on in Democrat-run cities, folks. This brings me to another point. Usually, when there's a Republican sitting in the office of the president, when there's a Republican president, usually when we get close to election time, like we're coming up on now, the Democrats run to the homeless issue. Usually, they always start making a big stink on poverty and homeless. Have you noticed? Look around, folks. Do some research of recent news stories. Have you noticed any stories coming out of the Democrats about homeless? Have you heard Pelosi talk about the homeless problem? Have you heard Schumer? Have you heard Sanders? Have you heard Pocahontas? Have you heard the fake Hispanic O'Rourke? Have you heard any of them? Cortez? Have you heard her? She wants to call the border, our southern border, she wants to call them concentration camps. Have you heard her say anything about the homeless problem in San Francisco, the homeless problem in LA, the homeless problem in New York, the homeless problem in New Jersey, the homeless problem in Chicago, the homeless problem in New Orleans, the homeless problem in Detroit? Have you heard them talk about those cities, folks? No, not this time. You know why? I know you're asking why. Because every city I just mentioned are run by the Democrat Party. There is not one elected Republican in pretty much any of those cities I just named. And if there is an elected Republican, it's 1 versus 10 or 20 or 40 or however many they have in their local politics and on the state level. But when we're talking San Francisco, we're talking Chicago, we're talking LA, 0 Republicans, folks. We're talking Detroit. No Republicans in sight, folks. These are Democrat-run cities. That is why you're not hearing about this homeless problem. Ladies and gentlemen, there are tent cities popping up all over LA, all over San Francisco. You name it in these cities I named. They're defecating on the streets. It is an epidemic. It's causing disease. It's causing diseases to come back because you couple that kind of living with an open border. So you've got third and fourth world country people coming over here. Yeah, you're going to run into diseases that we have eradicated before. You're going to see that. So and this is just common sense and logic being brought to you by On Point with Victor. If you just look around and want to know why, ask yourself, why aren't the Democrats running around like they normally do, bringing up poverty and homeless? And the answer is very simple. It's common sense and logic. The only reason they're not bringing it up is because they would shed the light on themselves. They would have to look in the mirror. It is Democrat policies in LA, Democrat policies in San Francisco, in Chicago, in Detroit, in New Orleans, in New York, in New Jersey. Democrat policies, folks. That's what's leading to homelessness. That's what's leading to more poverty. So you have these pockets of socialism that's being tried every day. And when I sit here and tell you that socialism doesn't work, and I tell you to go research history, if you don't want to, you don't have to research history. Just go look at LA, go visit San Francisco. And you know how I tell you, I have an awesome colleague in the radio business that always makes out the point that socialism is for the people, never for the socialist. The people who bring you socialist will never live under socialism. Only you, the peasant, you, the people. So go around and look at all this homeless problem in New York. It isn't in Nancy Pelosi's neighborhood. It isn't in Schumer's neighborhood in New York. It isn't in Cortez's, where she lives in Washington, because she hides from New York. This is just, again, common sense and logic, folks, and look it up. Go visit. Man, I'm telling you, if you're looking for a good, different kind of vacation to have, or you want to take your kids on an education trip, if you are a homeschooler and you're looking for a trip this summer to educate your children, go visit San Francisco. Go to the Tenderloin District, but don't go without some security. Go around Haight Street. Go around some of these places that used to be, well, the exception of the Tenderloin District, but the Haight Street and some of these other areas, the Wharf, Fisherman's Wharf, used to be amazing. San Francisco used to be one of my favorite cities, but now, I just got some crazy looks. It used to be a beautiful city, it really did. But
You're talking about Haight-Ashbury?
Oh yeah, Haight-Ashbury. Okay, Haight-Ashbury was. You're right. That was always full of hippies, and those hippies have taken over. But San Francisco and the whole was a pretty neat city, especially down by the Fisherman's Wharf. But now it's unbelievable. And if you go and you want to have an educational time, go visit, and you will see what has changed: the tent cities, the homelessness, the poverty, the defecation on the street, the absolute. It's just terrible what it's descended into. But yet, go visit Pelosi's neighborhood. Pelosi lives in a really nice house, folks, and it's got a really big, beautiful wall around her house. Same with Schumer, same with Obama, same with the Clintons. Again, people ask me sometimes why I call the Democrat Party the hypocrite party. Well, that's why. That's just one reason. So that right there, folks, again, you've got to look at these issues through the lens of common sense and logic, and you've got to stop looking at them through the emotional lens of, I'm a Democrat, I'm black, I have to be a Democrat, I'm Hispanic, I have to be a Democrat, I'm, whatever the group that the Democrats have deemed you be, whatever I'm trying to think of the best word to use here, but whatever small group they have deemed you a part of, because you're a victim. When you're part of a group, you're a victim. That's the way the Democrats do this. If you're African American, you're a black person, worker, you're a victim. If you're Hispanic, you're a victim. So you've got to be a Hispanic, part of some Hispanic group, and it just goes on and on. And look at it this way, folks. I told you a couple of shows ago that the Democrats have no ambition to solve any issue, because if they solved an issue, there wouldn't be victimhood. If there isn't victimhood, why would there be a need for the Democrat Party? If the Democrats actually helped solve a problem, then they wouldn't have a victim class. And without a victim class, Democrat Party of today doesn't get elected, because the Democrat Party of today is the victim party. Every message they give, don't just take my word for it, folks. Open your mind, drop the emotions, and just pay attention and listen to what these Democrats are saying. They're not out there telling you it's a great country. They're not out there telling you that we've paved the way of women's soccer. We've paved the way for women's votes, or you name it. Women to be CEOs, women to be CFOs, women to this, that, and the other. All these issues that they say are apparently don't exist. They're not out there telling you how great this country is. They're not out there telling you that in this country you can be what you want to be, do what you love, and be paid for that sweat equity. You're equal standing in this country, folks. I'm not saying everything is fair all the time. I'm not saying that there aren't some bad, mean people out there. But on the whole, you're free in this country. No matter if you're a woman, a man, Hispanic, black, African American, Chinese, Japanese, it doesn't matter. Because if you have ambition and you have a desire, this country's not going to hold you back, folks. There may be individuals that try and hold you back, but this country is not going to hold you back. There's pretty much no other country in the world that can say that. All right, folks. We're flying by here this hour, but don't you fret, because today we have a second hour coming up. So, okay, maybe we don't have a second hour coming up today, but maybe one day we will. But all right, folks, we're going to another break. You stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to On Point with Victor. This is America's Web Radio.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, folks. Look, folks, I jumped the gun a little bit back there and was mentioned a second hour. We're actually not doing a second hour today. Roger B., the host of Locked and Loaded, is out today, but we are going to do a best of. So stay tuned after my show. We do want to air Locked and Loaded. That's a show that a gun show, and if you haven't tuned into it, you really should. Locked and Loaded with Roger B. Anything and everything you need to know or wanted to know about guns, you're going to hear from Roger. And I challenge you, if you think you can stump Roger with a question on guns, please tune into his show. Not today. Today will be a best of from 3 to 4. But next week when he's back here live, tune in and see if you can't stump him, because I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to. He is a walking, talking encyclopedia of everything guns. So, but again, sorry about that. I jumped the gun a little bit. Maybe down the road we'll be able to get in 2 hours, because we have had the request for it. But we'll see. But I'll tell you what would get me to 2 hours quicker than anything, folks, is if we get some more sponsors into the radio station. So any of you out there, please, if you've got a business, you get national advertising here, folks. So spread the word, because we can't do this for free. We do have to have those obscene profit timeouts, as another radio host likes to say, and it's true. We got to have some profit timeouts, and we can't do it without those good, awesome companies to sponsor the show. So if you're out there and you want to sponsor this show, you want some national attention, then you email gm@americaswebradio.com, gm@americaswebradio.com. All right, folks, let's get back. I want to move on a little bit, because we're going to run out of time, but I will tell you, I will promise you now that what I don't finish today, we will pick up and just run with it next week for next week's show. So do not fear. We will pick up next week and just get running right where I leave off today. But I want to get in a little bit about Iran. Look, I know some of you are out there going, oh gosh, not Iran. I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to hear about the Middle East. Look, guys, this is important. But the analysis I want to give you is common sense and logic. Again, this is On Point with Victor. You're going to get common sense and logic here. You're not going to get anything resemblance of being married to the letter D or the letter R or an L or anything else. You're going to get common sense and logic here. And what happened and what's happening in the media and the Democrats right now with this Iran situation, if it weren't so darn important and serious, it would just be one of the most laughable things in the world. You just can't make this kind of stuff up. So just let me get started. And again, we will finish next week with this, so because we're not going to get through it today. I can tell you that right now because we're blazing through this. Boy, there really is. There's something to that fastest hour in media, and it's got to be radio. So this Iran situation, let me get into this. Let me sum it up for you. So Iran shot down an unmanned drone. Sure, most of you listeners out there are familiar with unmanned drones. These are really cool little remote control airplanes that can be flown miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away. And we're talking 50,000 or so feet in the air. It's quite remarkable and quite awesome. But bottom line, it's basically a robot in the sky. It's a remote control plane in the sky. It's unmanned. There's no human life on this plane. It's not that big. Some of these are about the size of a kitchen table. Some of them are the size of a coffee cup. And some of them are maybe the size of a couple of tables. The ones we're talking about here, they're pretty big. It's a pretty big, like the size of a big table. But anyway, it's an unmanned drone. So Iran, in their infinite wisdom to cause trouble, decided to shoot one down. Now look, folks, these things fly very slow. They're not fast. They're not meant to be tactical machines. They're not. This particular drone is not an aerial combat drone. It flies very slowly. It does reconnaissance missions, and it was over international waters. It wasn't over Iran. It wasn't spying on the Ayatollah wasn't peeking in his window to watch him enjoy all those Western things that he enjoys, that he restricts his people from. It wasn't spying on anything on the territory of Iran. This thing was flying over international waters. In fact, I believe it was over the Strait of Hormuz. But they decided to shoot it down. So you've got to ask yourself, why would they do this? Why would they knowingly try and provoke the United States? And if you think about it and you put on your common sense hat, it's not that hard to figure out, folks. It really, really, really isn't that hard. But what's going on, and I'll get into that. Trust me, I'm going to get into the reasoning, but I want to get into the reactions. I want to get into to what the Democrat Party, what they were hoping for. Because look, what Iran was doing was Iran. This was a calculated move to shoot down this drone. Iran. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party and members of the establishment Republican, what they were hoping for and praying for was a swift, off-the-cuff reaction by President Trump. And yes, you heard me correct. I am putting the Democrat Party, at least most of them, today's Democrat Party, I'm putting them in with the Iranian regime. Now, it may not be for the same reasons, but let me tell you why they were both hoping and praying for a swift and off-the-cuff reaction from President Trump. They were hoping that Trump would unleash a bombing hell on that missile site. That missile site that shot down the drone, the Democrats were hoping that Trump would bomb the hell out of it. Okay? This coming from the party of peace. This is coming from the hippie anti-war party Democrats. Yes, folks, you heard it from me. And I am not being hyperbolic here. They were hoping and wishing that Donald Trump would bomb Iran. Your so-called anti-war party Democrats of today were so convinced that Trump would just recklessly bomb a missile site. They were so hoping that he would do that I ventured. Now, I don't have proof of this, but I would put $100 on the table that the narrative in the media was written already. That the narrative was written, the headline was written. Donald Trump bombs Iran. Donald Trump rushes to war. Donald Trump begging for war. Donald Trump kills innocent children, women, and men. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, that was the story they had ready to go. And then when we woke up the past couple of days and there was no bombing, they didn't know what to do. The Democrats just really, for a while, it was hilarious to watch the news shows. They didn't know what to do. But it didn't take them long to figure out how they were going to spin it. So, I'm not, unfortunately, folks, this is, what I'm telling you is plausible. Very plausible. And if you don't believe me, just go back and research what the Democrats have been saying in the past 2.5 years. Since Donald Trump was elected, they have been saying that he's in a rush to war, especially when they started this Russia hoax. When they're going after and trying to build this pretend case against Trump on Russia collusion. Then on the other side, once they pushed that narrative, then they started the narrative of, well, Trump wants to go to war because he wants to pull attention away from Russia. He wants to pull attention away from the investigation. Well, obviously that never happened. But they still, folks, up until a week or two ago, Bernie Sanders was out there saying Donald Trump is on a quest for war. He wants war. He's a warmonger. That's what you were hearing up to a week ago. But, folks, has Donald Trump bombed Iran? Nope. Has he bombed anyone in the Middle East? And I'm talking about this situation going on now. I'm not talking about what happened in Syria, which, again, wasn't something that Trump started. He was just continuing an Obama policy. But that's another topic for another day. But what we had here was Iran shot down an unmanned drone. And Donald Trump, to the credit of President Trump, he had a plan. All presidents do. Even Obama's team had a plan to react if any United States interest was attacked. So don't think that Obama's team didn't have a plan, the Bush team, the Clinton team, whoever administration is in the White House, there's always a contingency plan. There's always a plan for reaction if a United States is attacked, whether it be a ship or any United States interest. So for the media to run around now and pretend that planning doesn't happen, folks, they're lying to you. And it's because they cannot keep up with Donald Trump. But what happened here was this drone got shot down. Trump, of course, his team had a plan ready to go. They had sites in Iran. They know what the missile site, they know where the missile came from, and we could obliterate that site. But listen, look, one thing Donald Trump does is out of the page of Ronaldus Magnus. If you look back in the Reagan years, Ronald Reagan had a team of advisors. Half of them were considered war hawks. Half of them were considered peace hawks. And he gets the information and he makes a decision. That's what a CEO does. That's what a president does. And Donald Trump, coming of that CEO background, this is what he knows to do. He puts people in place so he can get the best information, and then he, as CEO, will make the final decision. Whether the media wants to admit it, well, they can't admit it because they want you to think Donald Trump is a dunce. They want you to think Donald Trump is an idiot. Folks, if you haven't figured out by now that Donald Trump is the furthest thing from an idiot, then you are just kidding yourself. You don't make it to CEO, you don't have $1 billion corporation, and you don't build a company from being an idiot. So, all right, let me get back to topic here. So, they had the plan. So, Donald Trump has war hawks and he's got peace hawks. They put together a plan so he could go in one direction or the other, and had he felt the need to bomb Iran, it was ready to go. But President Donald Trump showed some amazing restraint that the Democrat Party is trying to tell you he doesn't have. The Democrat Party is trying to tell you for almost 3 years now, the media and the Democrats have been trying to tell you that Donald Trump is unstable, that he flies off the cuff, that he is seeking war. He just needs that one reason to do it. Well, folks, Iran just gave him the best reason in the world to bomb the hell out of them. That doesn't mean you do it, but Iran gave him a reason to do it. But let me tell you what CEO Donald Trump did. President of the United States, Donald Trump, thankfully had his CEO hat on. And when they came to him and said, Mr. President, we're ready to go. We are ready to take out that missile site and send a message. And you know what his question was to them? How many people are going to die? How many people are going to die? That is a viable question, and every military operation, they will always do a death assessment. Oh, at least the United States. Let me correct that. The United States, we, the American military, the United States military, we will always assess who is going to die and what kind of collateral damage there's going to be, because we, the United States, do everything we can, even to the death of some American soldiers. We do everything we can to save lives. And that is one thing you will never hear from the media that just drives me crazy, because we don't get enough credit. Our men and women in uniform do not get enough credit, because many of them have given their very life to save the lives of others that they don't even know. Foreign adversaries, ladies and gentlemen. So Donald Trump had the audacity to ask how many lives are going to be lost. Now, this takes me to another point, folks. If you don't think the Iranian regime, the minute they launched that missile and shot down that drone, they pulled all their military personnel, or most of it, off of that missile site. And they probably put a few innocents around the missile site. I don't know this for sure, but I do know from history that that is their MO. They will put innocents around a site they think is going to be bombed because they want propaganda. All right, folks, we're at the end of the show. We're going to pick this up next week, so please be sure you tune in next week. On Point with Victor, we'll pick this up right where I left off. Thank you so much for listening. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor Armendariz, and this is America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family